All right, Larry Krueger here from the Pig and Pickle Krug Show with a little 49er minicamp, rookie minicamp review. And check out Pig and a Pickle, 2 locations there in Emeryville and Corte Madera. They're open in Marin County from 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. every day of the week. And they're open in Emeryville Wednesday through Sunday. Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. All right, let's talk a little bit about 49er rookie minicamp. Niners gathered in Santa Clara today and yesterday, and they're having rookie minicamp as they take a look at some tryouts as well as some young players from their roster last year. In addition, all their new rookies and undrafted free agents. They were all there working out on the field today. No pads, but just helmets and jerseys and shorts. And let's just talk about who stood out and put these guys in some different categories. Okay, first of all, there's the group that were rookies last year that were on the practice squad all year, and they are able to participate in rookie camp. And oftentimes there's a big jump from year 1 to year 2 as far as any player, the biggest improvement that you see in an NFL player typically comes from year 1 to year 2. So I fully expected to see some second-year players really shine, and there were 2 that really stood out to me. Those 2 were Taylor Hawkins and Tay Martin. Taylor Hawkins is really interesting. He played corner at San Diego State. And the Niners drafted him. He was probably too slow to play corner, so they drafted him as a safety. He showed up last year. He was on the practice squad much of the year. But I think he was probably carrying some bad weight, even though, he tried to probably bulk up going from corner to safety. And so, he did add some weight, but I don't know that it was good weight. Taylor Hawkins today looked the best I've ever seen him. I mean, he looked like the San Diego State Taylor Hawkins. And if Hawkins looks that good this summer, he is going to be right in the middle of the competition to land a spot on in the secondary, whether it be at safety or as a backup corner or as a special teamer, and a backup to both spots. So Taylor Hawkins, really good football player at San Diego State. He was a really good corner. He just didn't quite have cornerback, ability to mirror in the NFL. But you love those cornerback skills if they can translate to safety. And if a guy can, be smart, take good angles, and still have those man-to-man cover skills that he had when he was operating as a corner, then you're ahead of the game. And in today's NFL, where you're in your sub package 70% of the time, sometimes 75% of the time, you're looking for safeties who can cover. You're looking for that guy who can play multiple spots in your secondary, and you're looking for guys in the back end of your roster who can play special teams and give you something in coverage. And Taylor Hawkins today looked fantastic. He's lean, he's mean, he looks terrific. I mean, he looks, I would say, 7 or 8 pounds lighter than last year. So his movement ability is the best I've seen. He's got a real shot this summer to compete for a safety job. Now, the Niners are stacked at safety. You've got George Odom, who's a Pro Bowl caliber special teamer. Obviously, you have Jair Brown, and then you get your starters, Tayshaun Gibson and Talanoa Hufanga. And I would imagine the Niners are only going to keep 4 safeties. So that's probably it right there. So Hawkins, despite how good he looks, may not be competing for any roster spot. But if he looks really, really good this summer, they may create an extra spot for him, or, some other team is going to pick him up at the cut down and be very, very happy they did. So Taylor Hawkins, the second-year corner/safety out of San Diego State, he really stood out. The other second-year player that really stood out is Tay Martin. Now, Tay Martin started at Wazoo, went to Oak State, was awesome for Oak State. I mean, just an impact receiver, tremendous player, lit up Notre Dame in the Fiesta Bowl in his final college game for like 109 yards on 7 or 8 catches, 3 touchdowns, could not be stopped. Just a red zone monster. So say, well, what happened to him last year? He was on the practice squad. Well, he didn't run a great 40 time, and he had kind of subpar upper body strength, so much so that he skipped the bench at the Senior Bowl, or at the All-Star games and at the Combine, and never really did the bench press. So the one thing that's really clear when you're looking at Tay Martin this year is that he looks just as fast as he did a year ago, but he's put on some upper body muscle mass, and you can see it. You can see he's a much thicker guy in the upper body. I would say he put on 7 to 10 pounds of upper body muscle mass without losing any quickness. So Tay Martin's got great ball skills, and the Niner receiving core is stacked. So there's no guarantee he makes the team either. But the fact that he put on upper body weight and upper body strength is going to bode well for him. His real weakness was couldn't get off the line of scrimmage against press. So now I think he'll have a better chance of fighting those battles at the line of scrimmage, getting off cleanly, getting into his routes. Once he's into his routes, you're talking about a 6'3" receiver with a big catch radius and great ball skills. So he could be a red zone threat for the 49ers, and he's going to be in that mix for that third wide receiver job, or for that fifth or sixth wide receiver job for sure. So look for Tay Martin this summer. He really stood out too. All right, let's get into the guys then. So those are the second-year players that really stood out. Then there are the relatively high draft picks that you are kind of banking will stand out. And sure enough, there was two of them that absolutely did. Jair Brown, the third-round pick out of Penn State, looked fantastic. We talked to him before practice. Kid's everything you want in a prospect, and he's tough. He works hard. He's got great character. Football's important to him. He's good against the run. He's good against the pass. Jair Brown's really a good player, and he looked good in coverage today. So he stood out. The other guy that stood out was Darrell Luter Jr., the corner from South Alabama. We talked to him yesterday, and Luter's got really long arms, and you can just tell he's calm and very confident on the corner. Very, very confident. He feels most comfortable in press man. He told us as much, and then when you watch him on the field, you can see it. When he's lined up a foot away from the wide receiver on the line of scrimmage, he feels good. He's got long arms. He's strong. He can reroute you. He feels comfortable. He's not quite as comfortable in zone. He's not as quite comfortable in off coverage. That's not at all rare for a young guy. It's sometimes easier for young guys because they have the movement ability to play press man than it is to play off, where you have to kind of absorb the receiver with the right technique and the right steps. And zone is a lot about your ability to read the quarterback's eyes and settle into the soft spots and break. The one thing I talked to Jair about was that he was an all-state basketball player in New Jersey, led the state of New Jersey in steals his final year in high school. And I asked him about it. I said, because he's had a ton of picks. I think he's 16 turnovers, 10 picks the last couple of years. He's one of the more productive interceptors in this draft among all safeties. And I asked him, I said, are those basketball skills where you're stealing the ball and basically jump in the passing lane? Is it the same kind of skill technique as, jumping a route or, breaking on the ball as a corner or as a safety, as a defensive back in the NFL? And he said, yeah, a lot of it's the exact same mindset. But he looked great. Him and Luter, Jair Brown and Darrell Luter Jr. both looked fantastic on the field, and they looked like the kinds of guys who could be plug and play kinds of guys. So that really stands out. Then there's the draft picks that I was hoping would look good, but just kind of looked and that would be D. Winters and Cameron Latou, the Alabama tight end. He didn't look bad. He wasn't out of shape, but he didn't stand out. Didn't stand out as a receiver. Didn't stand out as a run blocker. Didn't stand out as overly powerful. Just did not stand out. D. Winters, I think, is maybe, they list him at 5'11", 227. I bet you he's closer to 235. He looks like he's got 7 or 8 pounds of bad weight and that he could be a little lighter. I thought he looked okay, but he wasn't flying around. He definitely didn't look like that electric player that we saw against Michigan in the national semi. So I would say Latou and Winters just looked kind of okay. Then there's like, what was the story of camp? Well, one story on the negative side was Joey Fisher, the undrafted free agent offensive lineman out of Shepherd, who may be a tackle, maybe a guard, maybe a center. It was a very mild day in Santa Clara today. I mean, it was like 70 degrees, 75 degrees, and Joey Fisher could not get through the practice because of heat related issues. And all I was thinking is wait till training camp. I mean, if this guy can't get through a 75-degree day in Northern California with no humidity, how's he going to do in July or August or September when it's baking and it's, 90s, high 90s? He's going to be practicing in two-a-days. I mean, they don't really do two-a-days, but you know what I'm saying. He's going to be practicing in camp in July. It's going to be 20 to 25 degrees hotter, and they're going to be, pads on. So that was not a good sign for Joey Fisher. He could not get through practice because of heat-related issues, and couldn't finish. So that wasn't good. As far as the rest of it, let's get to the stars of this thing, because I already told you the second-year players that look good. I told you the draft picks that I thought didn't look great. I told you the story of Joey Fisher not being able to finish practice. But this whole event is about which rookies look good. Let's start dreaming the dream on some of these rookies. And let's just go right down the list. Braden Willis, the tight end out of Oklahoma, really looked – he didn't look that much smaller than Latu, but Willis really looked – you could see that fight and that tackle breaking ability and that fire that he plays with. He's wearing number 9 out there today. He moves really well. He really does. He does not move like a tight end. He looks more like juice. He looks more like a fullback. He's a little taller than your typical fullback, but he definitely moved better than the tight ends typically move. That stood out. Ronnie Bell stood out today. And I don't know that Ronnie Bell makes the team, and I've stated that a couple times, but man, if Ronnie Bell's going to make the team, I think I got the vision of it today. He makes all the catches. He's got great hands. He doesn't have good hands. He has great hands. Not the biggest, not the fastest, not the most sudden, not the longest arm, not the quickest, but he's got great hands. I mean, he made 2 or 3 catches that were the best catches of the day. Ronnie Bell has terrific hands. So there's no question. If he's going to make this team, he's going to make it on the strength of his hands. And today, those hands look terrific. I saw him make 3 or 4 catches that were the best catches all day. So he really stood out. Both of the undrafted free agent running backs stood out. Ronald Awatt from UTEP for his quickness, Kalen Laburn for his power and tackle breaking ability and balance. Laburn showed a lot of balance, which was great to see, because the film that I watched of Laburn, he went to the ground a number of times. So I was a little worried about his balance. He showed tremendous contact balance today. And Ronald Awatt has got great quickness at 215 pounds. So the 49ers have always seemed, every year they seem like they can find undrafted free agent running backs that contribute. I don't know that either of these guys is going to be, Jordan Mason, but or Raheem Mostert or even Jeff Wilson, but they looked like NFL backs to me, both of them. Ronald Awatt looked like he had quickness and cutting ability, and Laburn definitely looked like he had great balance, explosion. He's pretty thick in the lower body, a lot of lower body power. So the running backs both look good, no doubt about it. Deshaun Jameson, the cornerback from Texas, really looked good. Very springy, bouncing around, looked healthy, looked spry. I mean, he was moving around. He looked good. Jalen Graham looked really good. The linebacker who was the last round pick, 7th round pick out of Purdue. And, Scott McLuhan, shouted him out and said, man, watch out for Jalen Graham. He looked better than D Winters today. I think he's in better shape. He's definitely quick. He flows to the ball. He seems like he's got a real idea of what he's doing. So Jalen Graham, I mean, a big part of playing linebacker is your instincts and your knowledge, and, how are you flowing in the right direction? no wasted steps. Jalen Graham looked good. He looked good. He looked like he's a guy who could potentially make this football team this summer. And then I'll save the best for last, because these were the surprises and also the most pleasant surprises of the day. The 49ers have signed a undrafted free agent named Ilum Manning. And this guy's good. I almost gotta look him up. He's really athletic, very powerful, very strong. Really look good. I mean, really look good. Ilum Manning. The guy started 60 games at left tackle for Hawaii, but he projects to guard or center. Now, he doesn't look like a tackle at all. He looks like a guard or a center. But I mean, this guy definitely stays square. He uses his hands effectively. He keeps his feet moving. He's in good shape. He gets good pad level. I think he's fluid to the second level. He's always out there looking for somebody to hit. He looked good. He looks good. Now, he's not a left tackle. I mean, I'll tell you that right now. He's doesn't have the body, doesn't have the footwork, doesn't look like a left tackle. But this guy was productive and durable during his 5-year career at Hawaii. Pretty average size, pretty average athlete in how he tested, but a very smart player. And he looks like a guy who's going to be able to transition nicely to the interior offensive line. I liked what I saw. I thought he looked really good. Ilum Manning, go check him out. I mean, it's, there have been just 4 prospects from the University of Hawaii selected in the last 10 years of the draft. So Hawaii's hardly, this hotbed of big time football talent, but that guy can play, and he was impressive. And that stood out to me because I wasn't really expecting Ilum Manning to look like anything, but he's athletic. He's powerful. I would say he looked 290, 295. He looked good. He wasn't soft bodied or anything, didn't lunge, played over his feet, as far as looked like the kind of guy who can stay on his feet. Sometimes guys look like they're going to lunge a lot when they get in with greater athletes trying to compensate for the movement ability. This guy looked good. He absolutely looked strong. So I'm eager to see him this summer. And I'll save the best for last. Spencer Wagee, who we just had on the show last week, who's a kid who grew up on a farm in South Dakota and then went to North Dakota State. He didn't go to the combine. He played in the collegiate PA game in Carson, broke his hand. I'm thinking of Joey Fisher. But he played in the Hula Bowl. That was it. He played in the Hula Bowl. Never got invited to the combine, but Wagee did at his pro day run a 1.66 10-yard split, which would have been the second fastest of any defensive lineman at the combine, any defensive tackle, I should say. And he's 300 pounds, and watching him move today on the backfield at 300 pounds, I'm telling you, man, I was 2 fields away and I'm like, oh my God, look at that guy. I mean, he's moving. He absolutely can move at 300 pounds. So big takeaway is the 2 guys on the line. They may have gotten something with 2 guys on the line of scrimmage, Spencer Wagee and Ilum Manning. Those guys both, to me, looked really, really good today. And those were the surprises. I mean, because undrafted free agent defensive lineman from South Dakota, you're just not banking that he's going to look as athletic as Wagee looked at 300 pounds. He's 6'5", 300 pounds. He has a 1.66 10-yard split, the identical 10-yard split that Aldon Smith had the year he came out of Missouri. And when you're watching this kid, he supposedly tore up the knee 2 years ago. He's not out there wearing a big heavy brace. He's moving incredibly well. His change of direction was amazing. His stop and start for 300 pounds, very impressive. So Spencer Wagee, watch out. Watch out. He looks good. And Ilham Manning gives them another guard that they can lean on this year, I think. Both those guys were the surprises of rookie minicamp for me. All right. Hope you enjoyed the 49er video. Check out Pig in a Pickle. They're in Corte Madera and in Emeryville. They're open 7 days a week in Marin, Wednesday through Sunday in Emeryville. And thanks to all of you for supporting the Krug Show on YouTube.